call him the junior Democratic senator from Minnesota now. Al Franken, now the 60th Democrat, which gives the Senate a filibuster-proof Senate. Now the big concern is, will Franken and the Dems' supermajority agenda derail the economy? Already, Senate leaders are voicing their outrage, promising that the Senate's climate bill would not pass, even with Franken's addition to the Senate. Republican James Inhofe telling the Tulsa World newspaper that Franken was, quote, a clown. For more, we welcome back in David Goodfriend and Dan Mitchell. Guys, good to see you. Dan, I know you're worried about what's going on with the Senate, but how worried? I mean, when you got 60 Democrats or 58 Democrats and 2 independents, are they really going to be able to push through everything that President Obama wants?
Well, there's no question every single additional left-wing vote helps the Obama agenda, but there's no real party loyalty in Washington. It's every politician for themselves. And we're seeing poll numbers that already are showing that Obama's agenda, not Obama personally, but his agenda is increasingly unpopular with the American people. And the Democrats in the House and the Senate, doesn't matter which body we're talking about, their number one loyalty is to their own reelection. And so when it comes time for these giant tax increases, whether they're hidden tax increases in the so-called cap and trade, whether it's new spending, new bailouts, new government takeovers, healthcare nationalization, I think Obama has some very, very tough sledding ahead of him.
David, what Dan Mitchell is saying is essentially it's too late. Franken got there too late, and that some of these policies aren't necessarily going to happen. I'm looking at cap and trade, and you saw 60 Democrats in the House just abandon it. I mean, is the honeymoon over?
Well, let me start off by saying that I know Al Franken. He's a friend of mine. We worked together to set up Air America, and I think he is going to make a fantastic United States senator. He's intelligent. He's thoughtful. He understands people extremely well. You can
He's not
see
a clown, as the other guy called him.
He is, with all due respect to Senator Inhofe, Al Franken is not a clown. He is a fantastic public servant, and he's going to have a great tenure as senator. Now,
okay, back to my question. Does he arrive too late?
As to the point of the 60 votes and whether it's too late, I mean, look, we are now a few months into the Obama presidency, and already you can see that the 2 biggest domestic priorities that are on the table have yet to be acted upon by the Senate: climate change and health care. So Al Franken is right on time. Now, as to whether or not 60 votes can actually stick together on anything in the United States Senate, that's another story. I think we have a very diverse caucus. The Democratic caucus has everyone from Senator Mary Landrieu from Louisiana or Senator Ben Nelson from Nebraska, fairly conservative Democrats, to somebody like Senator Chuck Schumer from New York, who's a little bit middle of the road, to somebody, you know,
But David, when you see 60 Democrats in the House abandon the cap and trade bill, you don't get worried about your agenda?
I think in that case it really shows that the Senate is going to be the test for whether or not that becomes law. Because typically the House leadership could push anything through. They very well may have said, hey, look, you've got a difficult race coming up. You go ahead and vote against this bill. We've got enough votes to pass it. I'm sure plenty of that was going on. But the real question now is, in the United States Senate, what are they going to craft? It's not going to be the same bill as what passed the House. We know that already. It's not going to be the same bill. What will it be? It will be something where they can cobble together those 60 votes.
Dan, does that give you any reassurance that maybe whatever is put forward is going to be more economically friendly?
Well, first, I've never heard Senator Schumer of New York described as a moderate, so I'm still, I'm reeling. I almost fell off my chair.
It's all relative.
Let me go ahead and say something about our founding fathers. Every day I get down on my knees and pray in thanks that they created our system based on separation of powers, so that we didn't have like a parliamentary system in Europe where the existing government could ram everything through. The fact that we have independent Senate, independent House, presidency, all separated, rivals with each other, that I think at the end of the day is going to save us from some of this economically disastrous statist legislation that would turn us into a European welfare state. I don't want American living standards to be 30% lower than they are now, and that's the difference between America and a place like France.
I have to, may I respond to that?
Yeah, you get 10 seconds.
The United States is not going to be France. The United States is in its worst recession ever in generations as a result of leadership we just tossed out. This new leadership is going to get it right.
Big government Bush.
President Bush was a disaster for the United States economy.
Yes, exactly. And Obama's picked up the baton, and he's racing in the same direction.
I don't. You are the first person to tell me that Bush and Obama are the same. I guess if I can call,
I got to tell you, David. Strict libertarians were very, very unhappy under President George Bush. They saw him spending money, and they saw him invading the personal lives of people. I mean, with a Republican like that, who needed Democrats?
Well, and of course, the Democrats painted him as this ultra-conservative on family values
and
on
personal
the war
issues. That's the problem. That's my editorial at the end of the show that you guys got to stick around for. David, Dan, good discussion. Appreciate it. All right, coming up.